Never hired a developer with Meteor experience. They don't need it. It's never been an issue. Everyone picks it up pretty quickly. Blaze is much simpler and good enough for 90%, 95% of what we want to do. And why we're happy with Meteor is because we can hire people with diverse experiences and they become productive quickly.
Hello, I'm Gabs, developer advocate here at Meteor, and today we'll talk to Bart, that is one of the founders of a company called TutorMundi that has an educational software built with Meteor since the beginning. We will understand what this project does, why they chose Meteor for it, and why they keep using Meteor with Blaze until today. It was a very interesting conversation with very good arguments for you that is thinking about building a Meteor app nowadays. With no further ado, let's dive into this conversation with Bart.
So my name is Bart Sturm, and I am a co-founder of TutorMundi, and I'm the head of technology. So basically, I run a small team of developers, and we take care of all the technology of TutorMundi. TutorMundi is an education app based in Brazil. Basically, students they ask questions, so students can be starting from elementary school to high school or prep school. These students they can ask questions in our app, and usually within a few minutes they are in touch with a tutor who is helping them with their exercise, with their question, with their essay that they're trying to write, etc. And this community of tutors we personally recruited and selected and trained. So we have a big base of tutors that are helping these students out with their homework, preparing for their exams.
I'd like to know about the first versions of the product. It was the same product as it is today. Did you use Meteor since the beginning? Tell us a bit more about the first versions.
So the first version, I have to say I was not the first founder of the company. I know that even before I met him, he had already tried a few times to build something like this. There were a few false starts, so to speak. When I joined him and one other co-founder, basically they had just started. They had just managed to get the first prototype to work, and that prototype, that was the first real functioning version. It was built with Meteor. It was basically all built by that one co-founder who ended up leaving a year or two later. And that initial version, it was buggy, it was ugly and everything, but people loved it. Like it got a lot of 5-star reviews.
Just like the beginning of every startup, right?
Right. Every startup that goes somewhere, yes.
And do you know if he was the only developer or there are others?
Before I joined, the other co-founder was the only developer. Yeah, for a while it was just us until he left. He basically went back to his government job, which is something understandable. That like startup life is not for everyone. And then it was basically just me for a while, and for a long time I was the only one to take care of all the technology that we had.
At this time, before joining TutorMundi, had you ever had prior experience with Meteor?
I had played with it. I had followed a tutorial or two. I had never worked with it in a professional job. No, this was the first time really using it in production. And by the way, that original prototype that was there when I joined, that ended up being the basis of the app that we still have today. Of course, it's a very it was a very small version of the entire product that we have today. But basically, everything was built on top of that initial prototype.
And this initial prototype, I don't think we asked, but when was that around?
I joined in early 2017, so 7 years ago.
Okay, so 7 years later, what's your tech stack today?
So our tech stack continues to be like mostly a very classical Meteor stack with Mongo, Blaze, Cordova, Galaxy. We do use some other technologies often for more specific things. Like we have split up the website separate from the app. Like it used to be all Meteor. Now we have a website that runs on WordPress and separate from the app. So the marketing team can write their blogs and make their landing pages and everything separate from the app. In the app, in some places we use React because there's many excellent tools out there, libraries for React. But the integration is very easy to just use React in a couple of specific places.
And have you ever thought about migrating from Blaze to React, like completely migrating from Blaze, or?
We have a few times, but we've never seen a strong need to the point that would justify the effort. Blaze is much simpler and good enough for 90%, 95% of what we want to do. Like for almost everything we want to do, it's much easier to do it with Blaze than to do it with React. In those other few cases, sometimes we do end up using React. Yeah, but for almost everything, Blaze has been good enough and better because it's much simpler.
Yeah, sometimes people migrate like to React just because of the 10%, and I think that's a good strategy, like to keep Blaze on 90% of the app, and then whenever you need some, advanced screens or interactions, then you use React at that page. I think that's a very good approach. Could you say what are the main features of TutorMundi? Like maybe the more complex ones? Tell us a bit more about the product itself.
Sure. So the most complex, the most complete part of the app, and the most core part of the app is the part are the parts where the interaction happens between the student and the tutor. We have a few different ways in which that happens now, but basically two. One is like a chat room with a whiteboard that the tutor can use to draw sketches and everything. And the other is more a Q&A kind of thing where the tutor just sends a question and the tutor prepares one answer and sends that back. So there's a lot less back and forth. This last feature is one that we have developed more recently. We launched it earlier this year. Anyway, I can tell you a bit more about it later. But those are some of the more complex part of the app because of the need for real time of the chat room, of the many features that they have to interact, like recording voice messages, like drawing on the whiteboard and many things like that.
Nowadays, Meteor.js is not like the top choice for people that are starting in programming. We're going to change that. But it's like when I need to hire devs to work with TutorMundi, do developers need prior experience with Meteor, or they can learn while they work?
I have never hired a developer with Meteor experience. They don't need it. It's never been an issue. Everyone picks it up pretty quickly, at least enough of the basics to get productive really quickly. I've never required that. I've never really looked for that. We do work with very bright developers, so that might help. I have to say, we're really good at hiring great developers. Lack of experience in Meteor has never been an issue.
So would you say that one of the good things about Meteor is that everyone that works with JavaScript can work with it? Because as you're saying, you never thought about changing the stack. You're stick until nowadays, as you said, with Blaze as well, something that other people might choose other framework or other options nowadays, but you stick with it. And would you say that this is one of the good reasons?
Definitely, yeah. That is one of the strong reasons why we continue with Meteor and why we're happy with Meteor is because we can hire people with diverse experiences and they become productive quickly.
Yeah, that's the same experience we have at Meteor Software, like hiring for Galaxy mainly. We just hired a new developer and he had a great experience with JavaScript, node.js, and other tools. Like in the test that we passed to him to see if we would hire him or not, he developed a really great app. And he never had any experience with Meteor before. Like it happens most of the times. He fell in love with Meteor instantly because he was like, "Oh, I'm so productive with this framework." So he was like. It was still the same feeling that I had back in the days in 2015 when I heard about Meteor the first time. He just fell in love with Meteor and he's like, "Oh, we need to promote this. We need to present Meteor to everyone because this is so great." And he was developing with top frameworks that we have nowadays. And he just is like, people need to know Meteor. So it's great because he's living in the same city as myself. Can you tell what were your biggest challenges growing the company from the tech perspective? Have you ever had issues in scaling Meteor? How was that experience for TutorMundi?
We're never really technological challenge. There have been technological challenge. The biggest challenge with an education company education companies are notorious for it's really hard to get people to pay for education. Like for scaling the company, I end up more talking as a co-founder than as the head of technology here. But for scaling the company, this has always been a challenge. What that ended up meaning for the technology is that we've had to pivot several times, because even though the core of the app would be the same thing, if we're selling it directly to students or to the parents or to the schools or to the parents through the schools, the experience that around it that people expect is still very different. And so we've had to basically develop different versions of the app throughout time to adapt it to a different audience each time.
So like scaling with Meteor was never an issue, like using real-time features. Like, do you use Redis, for instance, for uplog or anything fancy like that?
We don't use Redis yet for uplog. No, we've had occasional scaling issues, like and we've made a few improvements, a few general improvements, like what I told you. We split off the marketing side basically from the app, right? That was already an improvement, because otherwise, all of the traffic to our blogs and stuff would be hitting the same servers as the app. That traffic can be quite high on some specific days, etc. Another is loading static assets from a CDN. Besides that, we haven't had an occasional bottleneck that we've had to resolve here or there, and sometimes it had to do with something real time. Other times it hasn't. But it's what you expect in any technology, that there's going to be some bottlenecks, not because of the technology that you use, but just because not all your code scales equally well.
How does Meteor and Galaxy help you grow without having to worry about infrastructure or scaling, Bart?
The first thing, actually, before I answer literally your question, the first thing that it allowed us to do was to keep the company alive, okay? Which of course was a precursor for us to get to the stage where we could really grow the company. We've had a few periods in which I was the only developer of the company, and we could not afford to hire anyone else. I alone had to take care of everything from Android to Mongo to iOS to the servers. If we hadn't had such a well integrated stack that was made to all work together, first of all, but also to code one time and work on all platforms. Galaxy to take care of the servers for us. It would have been a lot more difficult for one person to do everything, and I'm not sure we would have survived those periods if we would have had, we definitely wouldn't have survived some of those periods if I had to have a DevOps person on the team, an Android person on the team, an iPhone person on the team at all times, because there were periods where we just couldn't afford that. And so in that way, it simply helped us keep the company alive. That said, of course, it continues to help us, because to this day, we actually don't have an Android person. We don't have an iPhone person. We don't have a DevOps person. We now, for after 7 years, for the first time, we have someone who is starting to specialize in mobile part of her time. One of the developers is starting to specialize in that direction. Now that we have an app with 7 years of legacy and with a team of about 7 developers, now that much is starting to make sense. But if we had a different stack, even now developing features quickly would be a lot more difficult.
And currently, what's the size of the company and the tech team?
Yeah, so the tech team, as I said, is about 7 people. The company overall is about 30 people, not counting our tutors, who would be another. I believe we're at about 4,000 now, like about 4,000 or 5,000 tutors. Yes, who are registered to teach in our app.
That's really cool. And talking about Galaxy, which features of Galaxy do you think are most helpful for TutorMundi?
I think many features have been helpful, like the flexible auto scaling, the automatic unhealthy container replacement and retries and stuff. The easy rollback as well. If we have deployed some buggy codes with with 2 clicks and a few minutes waiting, we have the old version online. But I think what I like most about Galaxy is that it really Instead, it really teaches you how to use it, and like I didn't have to read books or do courses on DevOps to be able to just have a server running reliably. I think that's my favorite part. Like I feel like every feature in Galaxy really teaches you, explains you what it's doing, and teaches you to use it.
Do you usually recommend Galaxy and Meteor.js to other developers and startup founders? If so, why?
I do, yes. Meteor, first of all, mostly is like the entire Meteor stack has been helpful to us since the beginning, and continues to be so, because it's so easy to be productive. As I said, you don't need to hire developers with experience. It comes with a lot of features included that you would otherwise have to build or seek out separate libraries to, like the real-time interaction, like the user accounts. A lot of stuff is just basically ready to go. And so you develop it quickly, but also for several platforms with Cordova. And let me see. And Galaxy, I think is a basic part of that stack, because everything is built to work together, and everything works together really, really well. It all removes a lot of what they call like the accidental complexity that you end up having to work on if you create a lot of if you use other frameworks or create some of this stuff from scratch. It's already done for you.
And you are finally offering MongoDB for production. I just want to say thanks to TutorMundi and Bart, because they were one of the first customers trying our solution. Yeah, I think it was kind of the missing part of Galaxy, and we are working hard to evolve this new service, and I think it will be really a complete solution. I think it already is, because we have already customers using it. So I think now it's really a complete solution where people do not worry about DevOps in any way.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that you have that now. I think, to be honest, it's going to be hard to compete with Atlas, for example, which of course is already a very complete solution for Mongo. But of course, it all coming together and being made to work together is a big advantage that you guys have there.
Yeah, that's the main advantage actually. Like, I think for people to migrate, we will have a few strategies to convince people to migrate from other providers to Galaxy. But if you're starting an application and everything is there, just working together, seamlessly working together, I think it will be a great option. And today we are not looking for competing with MongoDB Atlas, but maybe in the future we will get at the level that we can say, oh, we are a great competitor if you compare to Atlas.
And Bart, can you tell us a little bit about what cool stuff you guys are working on now at TutorMundi?
Earlier this year, we launched basically a new product for our existing customers. We used to only have one way for the student and the tutors to interact, which was basically a private class through a chat room. And now we launched a new way, which works a bit more like Q&A. As I said, the student sends a question and receives a complete answer from the tutor, and the tutor is helped in creating this answer by AI. I actually, again, in repeating a little bit what happened at the very beginning of the company, we were surprised by how much people like this product. Like, we launched it in beta, and within a few weeks, people were using it more than the original product. We're still to this day busy, polishing it, fixing some of the bugs, improving it with the user feedback that we're getting. And so that is one main thing that we're working on right now, polishing this Q&A feature and get it out of beta. We think it has potential to grow even more inside of our platform. So right now it's already a majority of the questions that are asked there. We think it could grow to be something like 75-80%. And so that's one big thing that we're working on right now, on improving this new feature, this new product that has been so successful.
I saw that for the third time, TutorMundi was listed among the 100 most promising ed techs in Latin America. Congrats by that. So what's next for TutorMundi? What do you guys plan for the future?
Great. So our current product continues to grow, right? But we also recognize that the market is changing, and like many students are using ChatGPT, for example. Like they don't trust it, but they use it, and that's actually a big part of why we launched this new feature that I told you about, where students are getting quick responses similar to ChatGPT with help of AI, but also reviewed and edited by our tutors. And even our old product also needs to keep evolving. That's why we have the whiteboard, for example, which is a way in which that tutors can teach without that ChatGPT cannot compete with. It cannot explain stuff on the whiteboard the way a person can. And we're making more improvements to the tutor tooling. And ultimately, our mission is to make one-on-one education more and more accessible over time, to have more and more people be able to access these things. And so something else we're doing, not so much on the tech side, but as a company, we have already been selling to private schools for a few years, and now we're also selling to public schools, which is another way in which we increase a lot our reach and make sure that everyone, regardless of the conditions in which they were born, all students will have access to quality one-on-one education. And that is the idea ultimately with a lot of these improvements, with all these improvements that we're making in the product as well, is to make the one-on-one education, which we know is by far the most effective way to learn, right? And ultimately all these improvements are for making one-on-one education more accessible to more and more students.
And for developers watching us here right now, are you guys hiring tech folks or no? But if you are not right now currently, like, you should tell a little bit about how it's working there.
We're honestly not hiring right now, but we might very well be, by the end of the year, for example. So, all right. So about what it's like to work for us. One of our core values is freedom with responsibility, and so everyone in the whole company is remote, for example, and we have people in many parts of Brazil and even in some other countries. We don't necessarily expect people to be working at specific times of day or anything like that. As long as people contribute to the meetings that we do expect them to participate in and are able to contribute to the product as we expect them to. We don't care if they work. Yeah, we don't care what time they work, where they work from, or any of that. I think that's one important part of our culture. I believe we have a very positive culture that many people really enjoy being part of, and where people see in their day-to-day that they're really making a difference in the lives of many students, which means that you're really making a difference to the rest of their lives. Even if a student uses our product for 1 year, you might have changed the course of their life, the course of the rest of their lives by affecting them in that in the critical period. And I think people really perceive that in their day-to-day, and the people who work here are really passionate about that and about helping many young people do the best they can and go further in their lives that maybe than they even thought possible.
That's cool. So thank you, Bart. Is there anything that you'd like to say that we didn't ask?
I think we've pretty much covered it. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. It was very nice talking to you.